Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back. We are jamming today. We've got multiple probes now underway after we learned that in New Jersey, there are thousands of non-citizens registered for their elections, with hundreds also voting inside of them. We've got the DOJ looking into it. We've got Congress demanding action. We've got internal New Jersey individuals who are saying more should be done, and a lot of reaction from the company itself, who got blamed for this entire computer glitch. They say it's not our problem, it's yours. And so we're going to learn a lot more about the New Jersey system today. Idemia is the name of the company. We'll learn how all of these systems interface, because this problem is not limited to New Jersey. The same software is utilized in multiple other states across the country, including in Arizona. And so we'll unpack all the fallout from that bombshell that dropped yesterday. As we thought, it was going to just be the very beginning. It was a limited hangout. They gave us a little bit of a nugget on it, but now there's a lot more to scarf down. So we'll take a look at that. Then we've got the Democrat lawyers from the Democrat congressional committees of the Senate committees and the Mark Elias Law Group absolutely panicked. We have this letter that was sent from the Democracy Docket lawyers over to Brad Raffensperger in Georgia. They started to do a little bit of an audit on their own lists, and the lawyers are flipped. They just put this really nasty letter together. They sent it over to him and they said, stop this immediately. Don't you dare check your list. And so we'll take a look at it. There's also this new software tool that a guy put together that really corroborates and cross-references and indexes a lot of public information to identify fraudulent voters. And he responded to the letter and the accusations from Democracy Docket against him. And then lastly, some more deportation victories, baby. One coming out of the Fifth Circuit, slapping down a lower level judge. We had other illegal aliens or non-citizens filing petitions for habeas corpus to get out of custody, to bypass immigration altogether, and they just lost. And so we're looking forward to that and more from Texas, because Greg Abbott issued a new executive order. We've got Maria Salazar here today, who's doing the Maria Salazar stuff, and we're going to have a great stream together. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, subscribing, liking the video, and all the things. Let's confirm the interwebs have connected, and then we'll just dive right in. It looks like we're coming through loud and clear. What a beautiful day. And Trump just wrapped up speaking. Thank you, Mr. President. Right on time for the show. So that was nice. But now we've got business to attend to. And so let's get right to it. Starting right here. Multiple election fraud probes now unleashed. We saw that the New Jersey governor, Mikey Sherrill, came out and explained to all of us that actually that thing they say never happens happened bigly. There were 6,600 people who via a computer software glitch got registered and added to the state's voter rolls. And of those 6,600, 400 of them ultimately voted. And she explained it all away, saying it's not our problem. My predecessor did it. Don't get mad at me. It's none of my fault. Turns out, though, the company says it is your fault. It's not our fault. It's not our glitch. And so we're going to learn more about Idemia and really how pernicious software like this is all across the nation, and put together how it all works and why the Democrats are responsible for this, probably much more so than the software companies. But multiple probes. The first one that we've got for you today is from Harmeet Dillon. She said from the Civil Rights Division, "Hello, Mikey, we've got a question for you." She stated that 400 non-citizens voted in elections. That is unacceptable and literally illegal. So will they be investigated? Will they be prosecuted? Did they knowingly vote? They probably knew that they were non-citizens and that they should not have been casting a ballot, but they did. And so now the Civil Rights Division and the DOJ is investigating this unlawful dilution of American votes. Every one of these that counted took a vote away from you, watered down the democracy that the Democratic Party lectures us about every day. So she sent this one out and she said, "Hi, dear Governor. Earlier, you represented that approximately 6,600 people who self-identified as non-citizens between this very limited window, June 23 and June 24, 1 year, And just to be clear on this, I pulled up the contracts from the New Jersey website, and you can see they have been doing business for a long time, a lot longer than 23 to 24. So you can see down here, this is probably the one that covers it. And when you open these up, there are just dozens and dozens of documents and about 60, 70 pages in there. But this one is the contract for enhanced digital driver's license and central issuance. Presuming that's the one that we're talking about. There was a request for a proposal. There was a $35 million amount that was ultimately spent to date in order to get all this done. And it started back in 2010, went all the way up to June 30th, 2026, according to this website. They've also done some other things like a print scan system and other fingerprinting, scanning, and other services, a $21 million contract here. So, of course, the question is, how long was this going on? They want to just cabin it off in a limited hangout and say it was only 1 year and that's all. It's only 6,600. You know, that's all we want to share with you. But of course, we know it is much broader than that. Homeland Security and President Trump have already said the number might be as high as 35,000 and maybe much more than that based on their analysis from Homeland Security that's taking their public lists and validating them against federal data. So Harmeet continues. She says, "We've got questions about this, and they registered to vote even though it's illegal. And about 400 of those people actually voted. They actually cast ballots violating federal law." So she says, ensuring that U.S. citizen votes are not illegally diluted by non-citizen votes is of paramount importance to us. We therefore write to formally request additional information to assess New Jersey's compliance with various federal statutes as provided in our earlier letter to your Lieutenant Governor. And as we stated in that letter, we stand ready to help New Jersey. We will help you. Just let us know how we can help. We have the Help America Vote Act of 2002. We've got the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. We've outlined all of this to you. We've already asked for your voter list. We could have figured this out a long time ago. You could have just given us access to your list. We would have run it through the system and seen mass problems. But you didn't give us that opportunity. Instead, you're litigating with us and literally preventing us from helping. So to assist our review, and this is where we're going to get some good data, please provide within 5 business days, we're not playing around, get to work, the following information. For all 6,600 individuals identified, we want this: full names, date of birth, nationalities, residential addresses, registration dates and locations, so we can pinpoint exactly who they are. Then for the actual 400 people who voted, when and where they voted, did they vote by mail, the certification and signature required under the law, give it to us, please. Now, additionally, please treat this correspondence as a request to preserve any and all records relating to today's disclosure. Don't you even think about deleting anything. And by the way, we're also going to be informing the district court because, as we've seen here, Harmeet and the Civil Rights Division has been filing lawsuits under these federal laws, HAVA and the NVRA, saying that the AG has a right to inspect the records of your voter list so that we can ensure compliance with federal law. It's in the law. Now, all of the lower level district courts, I think every single one, has rejected those requests. They've come up with something out of their butts saying it's a privacy right violation, or actually the voter lists are not voter records. Those are internally created records and they're work product. And so you can't actually get those, federal government. But we're going to see what that looks like up on appeal because it says any record, which of course would include the list. So further, we'll be informing the court about this. We have this litigation going on because New Jersey is fighting this. It provides an additional basis for us to actually get an electronic copy of your statewide voter registration list, which to date you have failed to produce pursuant to federal law, and in this case, the Civil Rights Act of 1960. So we look forward to working with you on this matter. Now that you've admitted we're completely right and totally vindicated, if you have any questions, let us know. We can have you contact this dude called Eric Neff at the voting section, the acting chief. Signed, regards, Harmeet Dillon. So that is just the opening salvo. And Harmeet's not alone. There's a lot more cooking here. But if you missed the announcement, Here is what she actually said. Very short clip. She was out for about 25 minutes earlier this week, and she's explaining exactly what went down and pinning the whole thing on a glitch. And a glitch, of course, is kind of an undefined term. Oh, it just glitched out. Well, what was the cause? I don't know, but it's working now. Which means you can't really backtrace it to anybody. Who was the person responsible for preventing the glitch? Who was the person responsible for ensuring the software interfaced properly with the state election system? Was there anybody on the state election system side that actually was intentionally enabling the glitch? And as we know, software doesn't register people to vote. Is it all automated? If it is automated, that's a whole second problem. Okay, why is nobody actually validating what's coming through? But if it's not automated, then somebody on the other end, the receiving end, is approving it, saying go, 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 and illegals getting on the list. Here's what Mikey had to say.
In June of 2023, nearly 3 years before I became governor, a serious software error in New Jersey's motor vehicle system led to the improper voter registration of what we believe to be roughly 6,600 people in our state. When New Jerseyans applied for a driver's license or identification at the MVC, they were asked if they wanted to register to vote. In the case of this error, some individuals indicated that they weren't citizens and weren't eligible to vote, but the software registered them anyway.
Oh, weird.
In June of
Okay, so she says it's an error. It's a glitch. It's not anything that anybody did intentionally wrong. And so just move on. It's a limited hangout. We gave you a little bit, but don't come after us any further. Unfortunately for them, the software vendor, the people who actually do interface with MVC, say it's not us. They shared this with New Jersey Globe, and they posted it on their publication. They write, the software vendor for the New Jersey MVC, the Motor Vehicle Commission, issued a statement tonight blaming the Division of Elections, and the Department of State. It's not our software. We didn't have any errors in what we have given to you guys. In fact, they said Idemia works with the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission and has for more than 40 years, which is something that corroborates this actual contract down here going at least in this page back to 2010. They said, we support the process through which eligible individuals may indicate their interest in registering to vote when applying for or renewing a driver's license or state-issued identification card. Our job is to transmit information through the motor vehicle system. The voter registration information is then transmitted to the New Jersey Department of State at the Division of Elections. They are ultimately responsible for verifying eligibility to vote. It's not our problem. We didn't do it. Information submitted by Idemia must still be validated and adjudicated by the Division of Elections. So don't you pass the buck over to us. You guys are responsible for this. They're trying to blame them. And I do hope that maybe Idemia will sue. I mean, we saw Dominion and Smartmatic and these other processing companies sue everybody who said that they did something bad. Maybe Idemia can sue New Jersey and really get to the bottom of this for us. But the concern, of course, is about what's happening with the Department of State in New Jersey, at the Department of Elections, the people who are signing off on the data that's being passed through to them. So another congressman is also asking for a special prosecutor now, which we're in favor of. Let's go. This guy, Congressman John Rose, posted a letter that he sent over to Todd Blanche. He is a congressperson from Tennessee, and he said, we cannot let the voter fraud in New Jersey just go unanswered. I just sent a letter to Todd Blanche urging him to appoint an independent special prosecutor to look into this travesty. Anyone failing to uphold our election laws must be prosecuted regardless of the party. So he sent this one out. He said, hey, Todd, I write to express my deep concern regarding recent reports that thousands of non-citizens were added to New Jersey's voter rolls, and that at a minimum, Hundreds subsequently cast ballots despite being ineligible to vote. So we've got multiple layers of problems, by the way. Okay, so first of all, you're on the list. You shouldn't be on the list. But once you're on the list, nobody validates it. So it's like a problem getting on the list. Then you sit on the list for a long period of time. Nobody's validating or maintaining the list. And then they send you a ballot. So it's kind of two distinct things that are happening. Problem getting in and then problem receiving a ballot. So both things happen. So given the seriousness of these allegations and their implications for public confidence, I respectfully request the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate the circumstances surrounding this clear-cut case of voter fraud. This prosecutor and investigation should determine whether any laws or regulations were violated, identify any misconduct, any systemic failures, or lapses in oversight that allowed this fraud to occur and to persist. According to recent reports, we got 6,600 people who identified themselves as non-citizens. They went and got driver's licenses or ID cards, but they were added to the list due to a software error, which wasn't a software error at all, says the software company. Then they got added by New Jersey. Of those individuals, 400 also reportedly cast ballots in elections since 2023 and probably a lot longer than that. Now, serious questions remain regarding how significant and asignificant fraud like this went undetected for an extended period. Are there adequate safeguards existing to prevent ineligible registrations? When state officials became aware of the issue, we'd like to know, were any federal election laws or criminal statutes violated? Answer, yes. The seriousness of these allegations warrants an investigation that is fully independent of the state agencies and officials whose actions, decisions, and oversight may be relevant to the investigation. So I accordingly respectfully request the appointment of an independent special prosecutor to conduct a comprehensive investigation into this matter, and we can go get our own Jack Smith, and he can start looking into this, except somebody who's competent and lawfully and legally appointed, who actually is a real boy, unlike the partisan hack Jack Smith. But that's a big ask. That's a big effort, and I think the DOJ should absolutely do that. This is a good launching point. It's the crack in the facade that the Democrats have been denying for years now. Turns out it's true. They want to minimize it and kind of pass it off as just a small number. No one cares. It's isolated, only 1 year. We know that is obviously not true. So let's go, Todd Blanche. Launch that special prosecutor. I'm available. Give me a call. We also then, in addition to that, have local New Jersey Republicans also saying the same thing. They want to form their own J6 committee, demanding that Speaker Coughlin create a special legislative committee on election integrity with subpoena power. Let's go. To investigate New Jersey's voter registration failures. They say an internal executive branch investigation is just simply not enough. We can't let the same people responsible for this problem investigate themselves. Why should Mikey Sherrill and the elections department and the AG and anybody else be responsible and have all of the ownership of this? No. We need a congressional committee, legally and lawfully, with actual, following of the rules. So they say we have an independent responsibility to find out exactly what happened, and we like where this is going. So this one came out from the New Jersey General Assembly. They are writing now to the Speaker of the House. They say, hey, Speaker, we write to request the immediate creation of a special legislative committee to investigate the integrity of New Jersey's voter registration system following yesterday's disclosure that 6,600 non-citizens were improperly registered to vote, and 400 of them actually did. This matter cannot be left solely to an internal executive branch investigation by Mikey and her people. The MVC and the vendors that operate its systems are accountable to us and to the people of New Jersey. The legislature has an independent responsibility to determine what happened, why it happened, and whether additional failures remain undiscovered, and I would suspect they do. So we therefore request that you establish a special committee on election integrity. We want an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. We don't even ask for what the Democrats did. Remember, they were supposed to have 8 Democrats and 5 Republicans. And then Kevin McCarthy appointed Jim Jordan to be one member of the Republican minority. Then Nancy Pelosi said, I don't like Jim Jordan, and so refused to seat him. So then Kev, in one of the biggest fumbles of all time, just backed down and just said, okay, run your committee however you want. So then Nancy appointed Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, both of whom are now thrown out of Congress, good riddance to them, and conducted a fake inquiry with liars, in my opinion, as witnesses testifying. So we don't even want that. Okay, we'll make it equal. We want co-chairs appointed by the majority and minority leaders. We want full subpoena power to compel testimony and the production of documents, records, and other electronic data. At a minimum, we should take sworn testimony from these people. And we've got some names now. Look at this. Latricia Trish Littles Floyd. Latricia Trish, not Tish, not to be confused with Big Tish in New York. This is Little Trish, Littles Floyd Trish. She served as acting chief administrator of the MVC throughout the period in which these improper registrations occurred. Haul her in. We also want senior representatives of Idemia, the actual software company that said it's not our problem. The vendor, the Shrill administration, identified as being responsible for the software error, including those responsible for certifying and developing the voter registration system. They say we didn't do it, so bring them in. We also want former Secretary of State called Tahisha Way, who served as New Jersey's chief election official during the prior Phil Murphy administration, who got blamed for all of this. Mikey came out and said, it's him, it's not me. We also want the Secretary of State, this guy called Dale Caldwell, who recently got a letter from Homeland Security Mark Wayne Mullen identifying another 35,000 non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey. That figure is 5 times larger than the 6,600 registrations that were disclosed today. So why don't you start there, and we can begin forming this committee with haste. They say that discrepancy alone, from 35,000 to 6,600, that alone warrants legislative scrutiny. The administration under Mikey has offered no explanation for the gap between the number that it disclosed and the figure identified by the feds, and so we deserve a full accounting in New Jersey. The committee should also determine when the MVC, the Motor Vehicle Commission, and the Phil Murphy administration, the people before Mikey, first learned of the improper registrations. We want emails. We want to see, did somebody say something about it? Somebody else mark it as a follow-up item? Or what? Why the issue was not disclosed until now? Well, we know why now. Somebody's probably going to speak, speculating. It's going to come out at some point. And we now have the Trump administration shaking the tree, literally saying, we're going to prosecute you if you don't do something about this. If we see that there are non-citizens voting, you're on notice. We've asked for the list. We've been very nice about it. You're fighting us. We have all of these mechanisms to prevent this from happening. And so if you don't comply, we're just going to presume that you're complicit in the fraud, and we're going to come after you. We saw in Arizona, Adrian Fontes having a meltdown, shoving pie in his face outside of a great pie store in Arizona and saying, I'm not responsible for any of this. Don't get mad at me. Go after the other counties. And also, we want to know why systemic reforms were not implemented after the other prior voter registration errors back in 2020 and 2025, and why the MVC officials declined to answer legislators' questions, us in the state Congress, about the integrity of the automatic voter registration system, which is what they want to do. Okay, you just go in, everybody gets a ballot, and ballots are just shipped all over the state, meaning Democrats can go just siphon them up, harvest them, pick them up, put them in drop boxes, and rig the elections. Every New Jersey citizen who cast a lawful ballot deserves confidence that the voter registration system is accurate and secure. And that confidence can only be restored through a transparent, independent investigation conducted in public with witnesses testifying under oath and the committee's findings released to the public. And so we urge you to establish this committee without delay, respectfully submitted by a bunch of people in the legislature. Joe and John DeMaio, who we heard from yesterday, and many others. Clifton, Bergen, Oth, Azariti. We got Fantasia, Ara, Barlos, DePhillips, and McClellan, and more. So we have action. Okay, Harmeet is going after it. The federal government, our Congress, is saying we want a special prosecutor. And now at the state level, they want an independent commission, state level January 6th commission to go into all of this and investigate. So very good stuff that we're seeing here. And as we suspected, it's just the beginning. This is the crack in the facade. The rest of the facade will slowly start crumbling apart, which of course it should. So the contract has been out for a long time. And while all that's happening, we also want a general audit. So this guy is at the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. His name is Gouveia. And he said that we want a federal audit of all of this company's contracts because they are everywhere. And I came across this great post from an Arizona representative called John Gillette. We've covered his work before. He's been all over the Arizona concerns and how fraudulent our elections are and how problematic they are. But he's also explained that many states have some form of contracts with this company, in particular, Arizona, Colorado, New Jersey, Virginia, Oklahoma, California. We got Maryland, Tennessee, others, Illinois, all have some interface with this entity. And the way it works is you have these MVD transactions, then it goes into their software. So you go into the MVD, fill some stuff out, they plug it into the system, it goes into cloud storage, then it goes through the state interface, then it goes into the ERIC interface, which is the electronic registration information center, which cross-references the state. Then it goes to the county recorders, and the county recorders will then make their decision and add you to the list or not. So all of that, of course, they want audited. And here's what this guy is saying. I want a sweeping federal audit of all of these contracts. This is a French identity and security software company with the glitch that popped out in New Jersey. In a letter sent Tuesday to the GSA, Edward Frost, and to Russ Vought at the Trump admin, he said the New Jersey failure raises broader questions about this software. Is there quality control practices? What is going on with their national security capabilities? Explaining the incident raises serious concerns about their software. And so again, this is triggering them, hopefully, to say that we are not having any problems with our software, and they can sue Mikey for actually blaming them for something that they're not responsible for. Mikey disclosed on Tuesday that it was their problems, and they say it's not. Idemia pushed back and says our role is limited. All we do is collect it and transmit it. That's it. They have to validate it on the back end. This information is then transmitted to the New Jersey Department of State. They said they validate, they adjudicate it. We've been doing this for 40 years. And of course, this company reaches all across the nation. They serve as a contractor also for the TSA, for the Transportation Worker Identification Credential Program. They've processed more than 19 million enrollments at more than 630 centers nationwide. So they've been deployed at 120 airports in 2019 and more. And a small software issue like what happened could be allowing people to get on airplanes with their identities not properly validated. So this is catastrophic for this company. Now they're asking for a full federal audit because Mikey blamed them. And maybe they are responsible for it, but maybe not. Those states account for approximately 70% of the licenses that are issued nationwide. And they hold intelligence, homeland, defense contracts, and one single vendor that can't even validate citizenship may have a much broader problem in other higher stakes incidents. So what's going to happen? The congressman wants officials to determine, are there viable competitors, saying we got to protect Americans' most sensitive data, and you guys need to begin your audit promptly and immediately and give us an update on a timeline on when this all will go down. So again, it's happening across the nation. They handle a lot of things, and it could be a big problem for them if they're actually responsible for it. But even Democrats are now admitting that this actually happened. Andy Kim is acknowledging that there are 6,600 non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey, but it's not a big deal at all, says this senator out in New Jersey himself.
But it does represent a pretty big screw up and probably the largest breach of this kind that I could ever cover. What was your reaction to seeing that news today?
Yeah, I heard about it for the first time today as well. And I have to say, look, I mean, this is unacceptable. And this needs to be fixed immediately, and people need to be held accountable for that, especially if they've known this since it's happened a couple years ago. So, yes, when there are mistakes, when there are things that are broken, we need to fix it. But we also need to make sure that we're looking at the problems in the right size, that this is not akin to what Donald Trump was talking about.
But it does
It
represent
actually is literally what Donald Trump was talking about. Their administration has been literally prosecuting cases to get the data to validate whether or not this is a widespread problem. So you are still in denial, la la land. You can never admit that the president was right about this. He, of course, was completely right about it. And the fact is that if they were to admit it, then it would be devastating to their tentpole hoax. They've blamed Trump and MAGA for being election conspiracy theorists for years now. They engineered January 6th and had all the fallout from that Fedsurrection in order to smear a political party and to throw Trump off the ballot and try to put him in prison. But now, since the truth is coming out, they really can't reverse themselves, else the entire house of cards comes crumbling down because it's actually real. So here was Lindell TV, who was talking to Pocahontas about this, and here's what she had to say.
Hi, just a quick question for you. I know you're vehemently opposed to the Save America Act, but does the recent revelation in New Jersey with the aliens who are actually registered to vote change your opinion on getting that legislation passed?
Look, it is already illegal for someone who's not an American citizen to vote.
Okay, then why did 400 people do that? Do you support them being arrested? Just call for their indictments right now, Pocahontas, if you actually agree with that.
Period.
But there's
That's the
at
law.
least 400 aliens that did
There
vote.
are already laws to prevent that.
Okay, it didn't work, clearly, because they voted. So what are you going to do about it?
And if people have violated the law, then they should be prosecuted.
Okay.
Easy.
Anything's actually going to happen. I thought Democrats always said that there's no evidence of
I don't
illegals voting.
understand why you want laws that are already there. That
they're not
makes no
being-
sense.
But I thought Democrats said illegals never vote, but obviously they do, right? Thank you, Senator.
All right, so shout out to this reporter. And of course, it sounds like Pocahontas is now going to be in favor of 400 federal indictments for non-citizens voting. Hopefully she'll join in and call also for a special prosecutor to get to the bottom of this, since there are already laws that exist. And so they should be prosecuted. So I hope she puts her money where her mouth is, but of course she won't. She wants to just say this current system is fine, which is why we don't need to actually have any checks on citizenship when you're coming in. Make it more of a robust and mandatory system in order to actually validate who's participating in our elections. So that's Pocahontas. And Town Hall put together a roundup of a large swath of Democrats into a supercut. And they said, here is every Democrat claiming that there's no evidence of illegal aliens voting. Okay, so it goes in, first of all, into it's not happening. And then when it does happen, there's already laws for it. And then if it's happening, it's not at a widespread scale. And so who cares? And then eventually you kind of morph into this thing where you turn into like LA County and you say that it actually is a good thing that illegal aliens are voting. And you start to pass laws to facilitate that because they're residents here too. And they should have a say in governance. So here's this little supercut of all these Democrats who are now having to eat their words since, the Democratic Party just admitted that it is happening. 6,600 people just in a one-year look back from Mikey's own internal review.
There is no evidence that undocumented migrants vote.
We're debating a problem that does not exist.
This is a solution in search of a problem that does not exist.
The evidence is almost no illegal immigrants vote. Some benign effort to tell the small number of illegal immigrants.
The reports show voter fraud is exceedingly rare, but there's a couple things we know about the administration.
So, of course, it goes on for another 60 seconds, but you get the point. They have said that for years. And then, it's sex freak Hirono. She's out there. It's Blumenthal, the corpse. It's Ratskin in the house and CIA agent. Oh, there's Adrian Fontes from Arizona. There's Jocelyn Benson. Yeah, she's in there too. And they don't want to change the system at all because they want extra voters who are in favor of their policies to be there voting. And of course, the truth is coming out. So they can eat all of those words. And this was a great exchange over on C-SPAN. This lady called into C-SPAN and she says, I'm Hispanic. I'm an immigrant. I know how to go get an ID as a citizen and validate I am who I say I am. But this is a congressman from California called Gil Cisneros, who says he does not want to check ID at all. And the fact that this other actual immigrant can get an ID and validate her citizenship status is not anything that is relevant to his plight as a Hispanic man.
I'm an immigrant. How do I prove, or anybody can prove that they are citizens if you don't have to show any ID? That's my question. My comment about ICE, I have a very Hispanic last name. I am not worried about ICE stopping me. And if they do for any reason, I have plenty of proof that I am a citizen, so I'm not going to run away. I'm not scared of them. So I don't understand what the big deal is about them catching the illegals.
And Rena, do you carry that proof with you? The proof of your citizenship?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I do. And most of the Hispanic people do, the ones that are legal. And I don't understand why they keep saying that Hispanic people can't have IDs or, I mean, I'm not stupid. Hispanic people are not stupid. I'm not a victim. I'm a citizen now. But again, if I go to register as a Hispanic person, how does anybody, just by me putting in there that I'm a citizen, does that prove, is that enough proof that I can vote? I just want the congressman to answer that.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a Democrat and you really want to prove that there's no fraud, you would think that they would be in favor so that they can say, you're right, there is no fraud.
Okay, Rena, let's get him to answer.
So I'm Hispanic. I look very Hispanic. I got a Hispanic last name.
Okay.
Why should I have to prove that I'm a U.S. citizen when people who are white never get questioned about this at all?
Listen here, amigo Cisneros. You actually are not being singled out in this policy, okay? Voter ID and proof of citizenship is not only for Hispanic people named Cisneros. It's for everybody across the board. White, black, Latinx, Asian, whatever, any other category you want to add in there, everybody proves citizenship. Everybody presents an ID to validate that you are who you say you are. But it's always just about white people who get privileges or something. And this poor oppressed Cisneros, why should he have to validate himself? Because apparently he wants extra privileges. He wants to have a set of rules that apply to him that are different than the rules that apply to everybody else. It is ridiculous. And so shout out to this lady. Here is how he finishes this up in one of the most racist comments that you'll ever hear from a rep.
To me, how is that fair at all? You know, my mother, I told her to start carrying her passport when she didn't want to stand in line to get her real ID. And I was like, Mom, what are you doing? You got to get your real ID. It's required now, right? And, you know, ICE, we were hearing stories of ICE picking up people. If you didn't have a real ID, then, oh, okay, you must be undocumented. So they said, start carrying your passport. But my mom shouldn't have to do that. You know, we don't ask people with the last name Smith or Jones to do that. Why should we have to ask Hispanic citizens to have to prove themselves that they're citizens?
I'm an immigrant.
Because everybody has to prove themselves. The lady was asking about the SAVE Act, and he just can't even answer the question because they're so pathetic. Everything has to whittle back down to some racist attack somebody named Jones or something is not going to have the same level of scrutiny? Absolutely they will. They'll also have to validate they are who they say they are and that they're actual citizens. So it's just indicative of their brain. They've got racism on the brain. It fries their neurons. And shout out to that lady who has more sense than he does. She should run for his seat. Now, here was another one, of course, from RNC Research saying they can't keep coming on with their stupid statement that this is never happening. It's clearly happening. They're admitting it's happening. People are calling for internal J6 committees. People are calling for special prosecutors. Harmeet Dillon is launching her own investigation. And so they're now going to have to figure out how to address this other than just putting their heads in the sand and denying its existence.
Yes. Democrats can't keep coming on TV and saying this never happens. There are not undocumented immigrants voting in elections. Well, here's case one of it happening. It's happening in New Jersey. Guess it's happening in other states as well. So you can't say it with such definitive certainty these days. Yes.
It is happening. And the reckoning is coming. Steve Scalise was also in Congress. He said, they keep saying there is no voter fraud. But just yesterday, New Jersey revealed that there were 6,600 non-citizens that were fraudulently added to the rolls. And then 400 of them fraudulently cast ballots. So members of Congress show a photo ID to board a plane. Why shouldn't voters be required to show one at the ballot box? Good question here, Steve.
And oh, by the way, can't we ensure the integrity of the American vote? Basic things that most Americans understand. Democrats in Washington don't. They go back home and they give 4th of July speeches, and then they get on an airplane and so transformation happens. They get up here and they start voting against the wishes of the American people over and over and over again. And why? Not just to defend fraudsters. If you know that requiring a picture ID, just something so basic that every American understands, which, by the way, those same Democrats have to show that picture ID to get on the airplane to come up here and vote for socialist policies, but then yet they don't want that to be the case when you vote. And then they would say, don't worry, there's no fraud. There's no fraud. Well, why is it just today's New York Post
Jersey Devil
uncovered yet again what we've known all along? Here in New Jersey, they just admitted 6,600 non-citizens are on their rolls. Many of them voting in elections, illegals on their rolls voting. And they document in this article many elections that were decided by just a small number of votes. In fact, the margin of the theft, the stolen votes, are that margin. You can stop that by just requiring a picture ID.
They don't want to do that because they benefit from the current system. And they've known about it for a long time. They've been lying to everybody about it. They've been walking around with their talking points. Never happened. No evidence, no proof. You're all conspiracy theorists. Then once they do admit it, they say, well, it's a small number and we don't need to change any laws. And of course, at the end, they blame you for being a racist by requiring some additional standards to prevent the thing that they say is not happening from happening, because it is happening. So we've got a lot to continue to follow up on here. Harmeet Dillon now launching her own civil investigation. We've got the follow-up from the Congress saying Todd Blanche needs to appoint a special prosecutor. We've got local New Jersey legislators who are saying we want our own independent committee now being formed so we can subpoena people and investigate what's happening internally to the state. And we've got a demand for a federal audit of all the Idemia contracts as they percolate and emanate across the state. So lots of action on this, and this is the start of something big. So we're going to keep our eye on this one and root out all of the voter fraud until election integrity improves across the country and until we're completely vindicated. And every day that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to total and complete, utter vindication. Thank you for joining us and being here as we march on. Now, let's talk about some fallout to this inquiry. And this was a very interesting letter that got sent over your boy's way, and I'm excited to share it with you. Democrat lawyers are now freaking out. We see in Georgia that Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State who presided over one of the worst run elections in American history in 2020, now getting a nastygram from the Democrats and Mark Elias's law group. You know him as the Democrat super lawyer who has spent at least the last decade trying to reconfigure and, in my opinion, rig the rules of the elections so that the Democratic Party continues to win. And he's not alone in this. He's actually sending this letter to Brad because Brad is now finding in their own audit of their rolls approximately 100,000 potentially ineligible voters that are on the list. That's a big number. And that's why the Democracy Docket folks are so nervous about this. Now, it's not just Mark Elias's law group who's sending this. Take a look at who else is on here. Jacqueline Lopez and Elizabeth Poston and Adam Sparks. And who are these people? Oh, they're lawyers to the Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee, DSCC, on both of these documents. So the Democrats are going wild, very nervous, and they're largely friendly. Remember that Brad Raffensperger entered into a settlement agreement back in 2020 with Mark Elias to change all of the COVID rules and election rules based on COVID, just like Jocelyn Benson did. They said it's an emergency. We need ballot drop boxes all over the place. So this is kind of friendly fire. This is, people suing or threatening to sue each other who are kind of on the same team. But now they're fuming mad that there was an internal so-called audit saying the following to Brad. And what's curious about this is they're very upset about this new tool. It's called the Ellie tool. And I want to share with you a response from the owner and the purveyor of this Ellie system, which is this public tool that he's scraping data from to validate public lists. And he responded to this. He said, listen, these guys are perverting the facts. And he gave us some details about how the tool works and how this third-party solution can help fortify our elections. And so here's what the letter ultimately said from the Democracy Docket folks. All right, Brad, we write regarding two deeply concerning efforts to audit Georgia's voter rolls. Okay, and this gives away the whole game. If you even check your list, they'll threaten to sue you. And by the way, these guys will do it. And they'll also, in this effort, try to freeze and to ice out any election reform. Okay, and if they're so mad about just checking a list, what else do you think that they'll do? So they say, first, according to a public statement from your office, Brad, you conducted, quote, an audit of Georgia's voter rolls to identify people who are registered at non-residential addresses. And we've played many videos here from guys like the state senator Dolezal, Greg Dolezal, who was going around and seeing people were registered to vote at UPS stores. People were registered to vote in parking lots. They were registered to vote under overpasses. In other words, they don't reside there, so they can't register there. But the state was accepting them and then shipping the ballots out. So now they're looking into it. And Brad has apparently identified, which has him very nervous, 100,000 potentially ineligible voters. And then Brad sent those people in that list to the various counties for them to investigate the list and remove them off the rolls, which prompted all of this. However, this audit process was so sloppy that it captured college kids, homeless people who were registered at churches who clearly don't reside there. And also notably, it swooped up an entire town. It was looking for people with the name, Box, like it was searching for P.O. Box, and it identified the entire population of Box Springs, which of course is a problem. And that population is small. It's like 2,000 people out of 100,000. But of course, you'd want to investigate that and say, oh, no, it's not a P.O. Box, it's Box Springs, if he's right. But the guy will respond to it in a minute. Now, as the chief election official in Georgia, it is your duty to, quote, maintain the official list of registered voters. This duty includes ensuring that eligible voters remain on the list and their eligibility cannot be questioned with faulty information. So it is also incumbent on you to not waste the limited time and the resources of Georgia County election and registration officials by sending them deeply flawed data on ineligible voters. And so we therefore demand, this is a demand letter that is a pretext to a lawsuit, that your office instruct counties to disregard the list of allegedly non-residential voters and reinstate any removed voters from the rolls and anything that happened as a result of reliance on the list that you set, okay? So undo everything. This is why the lists are so important. It's basically everything. He's just checking to make sure that there's actual residences attached to these voter ID numbers, and you get a 5-alarm fire from 3 Democrat lawyers from the DSCC and Democracy Docket skidding in here saying undo all of it. Second, we have learned that the Georgia Election Board, the SEB that we've covered here, has suggested that counties use this other tool called ELI, which is a private data tool that purportedly aggregates public records to conduct voter list maintenance, saying this is an unreliable tool and it's illegal for anyone to use private funds or resources to carry out their duties, and so definitely do not use this. We demand that your office declines to use ELI and instruct Georgia counties they may not use this tool either. Okay, so any new systems, and by the way, they're the government, they can interface and contract with whomever they want, but they don't want this tool to come into effect, which means this tool is probably amazing. Saying your office has instructed counties now to look into 100,000 non-residential addresses. In response to an open records request, you gave us 100,000 voters that were apparently sent to each county. The list purports to identify voters that have been flagged as being registered to vote, for example, at a UPS store or FedEx or a PO box or a vacant address or a business address. And you gave the instructions to the other counties to say, clean your list up. Please reach out to the voter to determine if the listed address is correct. If you're not able to resolve the issue, Brad sends this to everybody, then do further investigation. Is it correct? If you determine it is not correct, actually maintain the list. Now, as demonstrated, writes the Democrat lawyers, from county election board meetings, counties have spent a lot of time following this. Some counties have gone so far as to remove voters from rolls based on this info, yet a review of this list demonstrates the methodology is flawed, saying there are problems here. And so because we found some problems, you can't do any maintenance at all. He identified hundreds of voters that were tagged with the PO box address when in fact they merely live at an address that includes the word box, like they live on a street called Box Circle. Okay, hundreds, great. And by the way, it's not saying remove everybody on this list at all. It's saying here's a list that we think might have some problems in it, and we suggest you double check and investigate further. And if after investigation, if it's not automatic, you say it's not correct, then you remove. So like this is the first phase, the first filter of the list. Also, the entire population of Box Springs, like that one's pretty obvious. Okay, 2,000 voters. Probably don't want to remove those people because they're not at a PO box. They live in Box Springs. It's 2,000 out of 100,000. Also, hundreds of student voters who appear to have been flagged for being registered at their dorm address. Thousands of voters, despite listing their address at the apartment building, simply because the apartment building shares an address with a commercial business, and also unhoused people registered at homeless shelters and other county courthouses. So just add all that up. What have they identified? Is it 5,000? Is it 5% of the total number, perhaps? Okay, that sounds like it's pretty accurate. So we've got hundreds plus hundreds. We'll say that is 1,000 plus 2,000 plus another 1,000 and change. So maybe 5,000 out of 100,000. So you can't change anything or investigate anybody or remove anybody anywhere because we've identified some problems, which they already literally acknowledged, like they're not going to remove those people there, Mark. So your office must cease directing counties to conduct these audits. Okay, do not check your list based on this or any other list. Whether you even have a better list, you can't use that either. This activity not only wastes the precious time and resources of Georgia's officials, but also causes voter confusion. Oh, by asking them to contact voters and confirm that they're legitimate. Georgia law provides opportunity to engage in routine list maintenance. It does not authorize you to question the eligibility of voters based on this data. And to the extent that voters are removed, these removals are in violation of the law, and we're going to sue you for this. So that, to me, gives away the entire scam. Okay, you can't check your lists. once you're on the list, once they've got your registration through and they've got you marked in their system to go harvest your ballot, any attempt to change that system or to go through it with a fine-tooth comb like what's happening here is going to be met with a lawsuit threat. Now, Ellie also is this other tool. This is a database designed by conservative activists. That's right, baby. Conservatives entering the game now with technology. We can vibe code now. And root out allegedly inaccurate records. These individuals who created and marketed this presented it to the SEB earlier this month at a meeting. Ellie uses a variety of publicly available data sources. They aggregate records and they match them to the voter file. Software has been proven to be unreliable. The guy's going to respond, the creator of Ellie is going to respond to this and obliterate him in a minute. Because the tool relies only on public sources, the matching process is flawed and public records are outdated and more. And they can generate false messages and matches. And so therefore, this risks flagging people. And while registrars do have a duty to examine their voter list, that doesn't allow them to question other things based on these unreliable sources. So moreover, this is not even a government tool. It's a private tool. And they're offering this free of charge. Like these dudes are not even getting paid for this. Here, just use it. It's a better system than your crap. So not only is this inaccurate, it violates law because it's a private company offering a tool to you for free that is providing you a benefit, and that's akin to a gift. So we'll sue you for that. So Georgia law also says that is illegal. You're not allowed to do that. And so for multiple reasons, you need to instruct all your counties, do not use this software to validate anything. So please confirm, this is from Democrat lawyers, the DSCC. 3 of them, and Mark Elias' company, please confirm that your office has ceased directing counties to maintain their list, like literally stop it, and based on your list or any other list, as they mentioned before, and instruct Georgia counties to not use Ellie in any list maintenance efforts at all. So that shows just how panicked they are. And an initial review got 100,000 ineligible voters, 100,000 ballots may have gone out during the last several elections that should not have gone out. And of course, we know that in 2020, the margin of error was about 11,700. So you just got to go collect a portion of those extra legitimate ballots that are sent out, round them up, vote them, turn them back in, and that's the game. That's why we have ballot harvesters. That's why we have drop boxes and more. So in response to this, we've got the creator and the purveyor of Ellie, and he is saying this dude is off the mark. His name is John W. Richards Jr., and he's the founder and CEO of this organization and a so-called conservative activist. He says, all right, listen up here. I'm going to send this letter back to you, Brad, in response to the democracy dorks, saying Eagle AI submits these materials in response to Mark. We want to correct several factual mischaracterizations and tell you what this does. This is a research aid. It aggregates public data to surface possible discrepancies in voter lists. All we do is pass it off to you. We don't make any eligibility determinations on this at all. We don't remove any voters. We're not plugged into your system. Every judgment and every removal goes back to the state, and they have to follow the law. So the single design choice answers most of the questions raised. That's basically the game, but I'll explain it further for you. And by the way, we welcome scrutiny. We ask only that you evaluate the tool based on its actual methodology. And we'll demonstrate it to you, Brad. We'll provide our own data handling practices to you. You can do independent validation if you want. Respectfully submitted, John W. Rick Richards Jr., MD, MMM, CPE, FAA, FP, FACPE. Dang, that's a lot of acronyms. So he walks us through all of it. I'll hit the highlights with you here today. He says, let's be clear. The National Research Council of the National Academies of Sciences and more wrote a 2010 consensus study. How do you improve your registration databases? And they recommend literally the methodology that we deploy. And Mark and his people say this is unreliable. It's not. It's literally in compliance with this methodology from the national academies. They recommend correcting errors in voter databases by matching records against other databases. Where no single error-free reference database exists, then you triangulate the correct information. Okay, source, cross-index, fill in the gaps, and find stuff to complete a profile of this person. The sources the committee identifies are things like the Postal Service change of address data, property ownership records, magazine subscription data, other proprietary data, alongside the same categories of local, county, state, and federal records that this software aggregates. And so they've made a recommendation, and we're following it exactly. The Elias Law Group and their assertion that reliance on publicly available sources makes this inherently flawed is literally the exact opposite of the settled conclusion of the national academies. They've given these recommendations to improve accuracy, and we're following it. Now, our role on this is to identify. We don't remove anything. We show what the data says, and then we give indicators for actual officials to follow up. We don't make any determinations about who should be removed or where. That's up to you. Now, we urge human review of every decision to remove a registered voter. We recommend they follow the law. Written notice before cancellation. They can fix their registration if there's a problem or a false positive. We reach none of these removal stages. We don't do that at all. Every judgment goes back to the county. And so we are entirely on the identification side, on the line that is drawn by the National Academy. And also, they say third-party data are most useful where a false positive carries high consequences. That is, where a voter would otherwise be wrongfully disenfranchised, and that harnessing third-party data actually improves overall accuracy, quality, and the repeatability by reducing cases requiring additional research. Now, again, this is the opposite of what Mark Elias and his group claims. The academies say that properly used third-party data reduces errors and literally minimizes wrongful disenfranchisement versus other methodologies. And so they give us all of the various addendums. That's the highlight from John Rick Richards with all of these credentials behind his name. And then he walks through each addendum. He says in August 2025, the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, which just got obliterated by Trump. He fired basically everybody on that committee. They're gone. Good riddance to them. The only federal agency dedicated solely to assisting states, they published a study, the Voter List Maintenance Study. And in its findings, published less than a year before Mark's letter, it directly refutes Mark. They conducted a pilot across 11 jurisdictions, including Georgia. They ran more than 11 million voter addresses against a commercial third-party database. And they said, oh, third-party data may be an additional new tool to become even more accurate. Their contention from the Democracy Democrats saying that third-party data is improper is not actually even reconcilable with the fact the government says the opposite. And the model that the EAC studied is literally the model that we use. Our system is to flag, verify, and then pass it off for compliance with the NVRA. We produce an indicator, qualified officials verify, every step after that follows the law. So they are mad that this is now available. The EAC study confirms that this flag then verify approach is correct, and it's the right way to use third-party data. And our data is way more comprehensive than theirs. He says that public records are frequently outdated, but that's not what the EAC says. In its pilot, the commercial third-party data outperformed the U.S. Postal Service National Change of Address System, returning potential new addresses for 12 to 21% of the records, compared with 2% to 7% under the Postal Service system. And what we got from the public data was even more accurate and included newer addresses than the Postal Service did. Now, at the same time, most submitted addresses were already in the current voter system, and the process does not indiscriminately flag eligible voters. It just isolates a smaller subset for follow-up. And that is intended to keep eligible voters correctly registered. And so, very nice response, and they're going through bit by bit. They say the software is unreliable. They say, no, we're not. Third-party and public records data is actually better And public records are even superior for list maintenance, so it's not inherently flawed. Mark's an idiot. The EAC's empirical findings are the exact opposite of what they claim. They say it's outdated, incomplete, or inconsistent. Nope. It is more current and it's more comprehensive than the National Change of Address form. And so the Elias Law Group's claim that these totals sweep large numbers is not even borne out by the federal study. They also say they're going to flag eligible people. And they say, by the way, flagging a record is not a finding of ineligibility. It's not disenfranchising somebody to just say this might be a problem. In the model that the EAC studied, the same model that Ellie uses, a flag triggers contact before an activation or removal. We follow total compliance with federal law. The safeguard against the wrong flag is built into both the EAC's practice and the way that we handle these things. So we don't make removals. All of this is authorized. The government makes the removals. And so we have now given you the background on this. Elias is smearing our program, calling it inherently flawed. It's not. We're in compliance with the EAC from 2025 and the National Academies of Sciences from 2010. And so we want you to follow these requests from us. Identify any claim or refute any claim that Ellie is unreliable. We want you to review this to understand that there is actual methodology here, and just give us the opportunity to actually address this with you so you can see how amazing it works. And again, they then say this is not a public gift, okay? Saying the laws about this being a gift are about how costs are paid. We create no cost to pay. The provision letter, quote, requires all costs and expenses related to conducting primaries shall be paid from public funds. This is a source of payment rule. We don't generate a cost. There is no expense. A county pays nothing to use any of this. It signs no contract. There is no license. There is no expenditure that could have been paid. There is no expenditure at all. Georgia law governs how costs are paid. And the county's own cost of list maintenance is exactly what it was. All of that comes from public funds, and so there is no transfer. It's a publicly accessible research website. An official who uses it receives nothing. There's no property, there's no possession, there's nothing to retain when the browser closes, there's no link to county systems. They don't upload anything to it either. So Ellie cannot write to Garvis. It confers nothing of value, and so there is therefore no gift. We're not in violation of the law at all. This is not a gratuitous transfer. An election official who reads an obituary on a newspaper's website or checks a parcel on the GIS portal or runs an address through the USPS website is not accepting a gift. It's a free website. Just go search it. Now, because the laws are not triggered at all, we don't need to go any further, but this is not a gift. And so these three lawyers are getting blown out by this dude. Shout out. It's not a gift. Gift means something different. And this is not what this is. And it's also not to a public officer. It's not a loan. Georgia's election officials are not elected. They're county boards. And other people, they have hired staff who are doing these things. So it's not a gift. It's not transferred to anybody. It's not a loan. And it's not at a value that merits further scrutiny. And so if consulting a free, publicly available information resource were an unlawful expenditure, it'd be like going to Wikipedia or something. You're getting a benefit from reading a Wikipedia article, and so Wikipedia needs to be shut down and invalidated. Reading an obituary, looking up a parcel, using a search engine, using a free legal research database, going to any website that's maintained at no charge. Your rules would invalidate the entire internet. And so any of these bills just don't apply to us. And man, I love how thought through this is. Now, we recognize the deeper concern here. This is a research tool, and it could enable large numbers of citizen challenges that burden eligible voters. We've designed it to prevent that. We've got tiered confidence scored possibilities. We don't even offer bulk removal list. Everything challenged follows the law. And a challenge is not a removal. And so we file neither challenges. We don't determine the outcome at all. We don't charge anybody. We've never charged anybody. No county has paid any of us anything. And because these laws carry criminal penalties, we think you should look into this, Brad. Like, look through the research. Do you think this is an expenditure to use a free website? Do you have any opinions that address the corollary? Would this bar them if you can't use our search engine? Are you also prohibited from using Google? And if you don't have an opinion, you should advise us that no county in Georgia is going to face criminal exposure or should acquiesce to any of Mark Elias's threats because it's legal. And if there is some prohibition on this, we'll say so publicly. We'll direct our efforts to other states. But it's not a gift. Let us know if you find differently. Otherwise, use our service. And here's some clarity on the box. The list of 100,000 registrations and its examples involving a P.O. box, the town of Box Springs, college dormitories, and more, that was generated by Brad's office as part of a multi-phase list maintenance audit, which the office publicly announced would deploy a new address verification tool. We had no part in generating that list at all. And binding or operating that tool, and so your list that identified those addresses, it's not even ours. Whatever the merits of the letter's criticism of that audit, those criticisms are not us. They belong to a separate state-run process. It is also worth noting that the specific errors that the letter identifies, flagging every address that has the word box in it, or an entire town named Box Springs, are exactly the false positives that we try to avoid. We're built around this discipline. We surface possible discrepancies, then they verify it before any action is taken at all. And so for the record, we have repeatedly sought to work constructively with you, Brad. In fact, in 2022, Dr. Richards developed Eagle AI Network and provided the report status on Georgia's voter rolls on several times and occasions. We shared these reports with the governor, the attorney general, other candidates, but we never got a meeting with you at all. Then a year and a half later, Charlene McGowan of the Secretary of State's office called Dr. Richards to ask him about the interactions with the Georgia Board of Elections. Then in 23, Richards began talking to Charlene McGowan, sent her detailed recommendations for improving your database, and then offered a step-by-step registration form and accompanying procedures and how to fix this. We also had a video conference with the general counsel, the assistant general counsel, the director of elections. There were no spontaneous questions or comments. They said, we'll be in touch, and no one followed up. They go, crap, this thing is like good, so we hate it. After further emails and requesting follow-up that went unanswered, sent in a specific request, and again, no response. The guy's like a tool that works, so they don't want to talk to him. Public statements also from their office at Brad's office call our data unreliable. And June 29th, Elias sent a letter also saying the same thing. But nobody can validate that. You guys never even tested it. To date, no critic has published a documented error or anything about our problem. So I personally dispute these characterizations, as I've done since they were first raised in 23. We ingest public data and we cross-reference them. Anything that is inaccurate, we validate, we give you a score. And so I have had no access to any of Georgia's tools at all. Don't know their methodology, have no firsthand knowledge of their accounting. So I decline to speculate about their program. I only ask that the evidentiary discipline that Elias's letter demands of us be applied to any tool, including the ERIC system, the Electronic Registration and Information Center, and that claims about the tool's accuracies actually follow grounded testing and more. And so here's how it works. If there's a factual misunderstanding, we correct it. Walton County, someone says, I have not heard of Ellie. How is it? Glenn County, I guess I thought Ellie was HR. It's not. It's an election software. Does it use AI? Not generative AI. We'll show you how it works. And more clarifications on the distinct products that they actually offer. It's not vaporware. They handle data appropriately, and a little bit of an FAQ here. So officially now launched June 26, and it has them so panicked that they're sending threatening letters to state registrars saying, do not use this software because it's going to destroy our rigged voter rolls. So shout out to this guy. We appreciate our tech bros out there, our doctors, MDs, MMMs, CPEs, FAAFPs, FACPEs, whatever all that means. Amazing. we appreciate his efforts on this, rooting out the fraud. But here's Mark Elias, who is very upset about this with MS Now, saying the lists are fine. Don't look into them. Don't remove anybody from them. And so what if illegal aliens are voting in our elections?
Just set the stakes for us. What are the consequences of these election deniers moving one step closer to power in a state like Arizona?
Turn your mic on, idiot.
Sorry about that. I think we need to see this through three prisms. Okay. One is the state of Arizona relitigating the 2020 election, and as Governor Hobbs says, this is like a distraction from the real world concerns that most people in Arizona and around the country have. So that's piece one, right? That's just like soothing Donald Trump's ego.
I don't think so, because all of these so-called election deniers just won handily in Arizona's elections last night. So seemingly many people are still interested in this. And by the way, Trump won the election again. So obviously the American public is more in alignment with his interpretation of what happened in 2020 than Kamala or Biden's or your interpretation of what happened in 2020. So it looks like cope.
About 2020 and the waste of time and energy that is for everyone else. The second is what this means for 2028, right? If you put these people in office, as you point out, they will be in charge of elections and issuing certificates of elections and certificates of ascertainment for the elections that take place in 2028.
Yes, that's right.
But I don't want to skip over the medium part, right, which is 2026. Donald Trump doesn't have a plan to become more popular. None of these candidates are offering any solutions.
Oh, so what, he's rigging the election?
Have
is that
them be elected on the merits. What they're all running on, what Donald Trump is counting on, is that he will interfere with the 2026 elections.
Got it.
Whether it is by deploying ICE to the polls or whether it's by taking over the U.S. Postal Service, whether
it's not taking over anything, you lunatic. We're trying to clean up the list. We're trying to create election integrity. Your law office, literally in writing, is now threatening the state secretary of Georgia against removing ineligible voters off the list. Okay, we're trying to have a free and fair election. You've got 3 Democrat lawyers and your Democracy Dorks group suing or threatening to sue to prevent any improvements or list maintenance happening at all. So if anybody's trying to interfere, it's you sending letters like this. And so that's Mark Elias, who is, I think, pretty nervous out there and can't even remember to turn his mic on MS Now. So we're going to keep our eye on this one. Shout out to our friends at Ellie and Eagle AI. Let's go. Identify all the fraudsters and keep these people backpedaling, threatening to file lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions if they don't get their way. Gives the whole game away. It's all about the list, but now we've got some technology to fight back. So we'll keep our eye on this one. Thanks for joining and subscribing as we do. All right, we got one more update, my friends, and then we'll hear from you. Yeah, Mark Elias is not an elected person, thank God. He's just a Democrat lawyer, but he gets a lot of Democrats elected by suing everywhere. All right, so here's another big one. Extraordinary win, according to the DOJ, now coming down out of the Fifth Circuit. We've had this fight over what to do with non-citizens and illegal aliens who are in the country going through immigration processing and then don't like what they're facing. So they exit the immigration proceedings, they go into a friendly lower level district federal court, and they sue. And what happens is the lower court judges, activists, many of them, say, we agree, your constitutional rights as a non-citizen are being violated. And so we're going to let you out. We're going to let you roam free. We're going to give you the red carpet rolled out across America and give you due process premium across the land. Not anymore. Brett Shumate said the full Fifth Circuit has issued an extraordinary precedential order making clear that illegal aliens do not have a constitutional right to roam free in the United States during their removal proceedings. While it's pending, they can lock you up, and rightfully so. And so he linked us the order. It is a very short decision. We're going to continue to litigate this, no doubt about it, but here's some background on this. The Fifth Circuit said no constitutional right to roam free. The ruling came down, led by Chief Judge Jennifer Elrod, appointed by Bush, overturned the lower court's decision. The lower level judge granted bond hearings and released 3 illegal immigrants from ICE. Let them go. But now that lower court order is on hold. And we still got more of the appeal to process through. But the fact that they're taking this decision now seemingly is indicating that the final decision is going to be in their favor. If it was not going to be in their favor, they would not do this now. DOJ said it is extraordinary. And the background comes after the lower court made the decision back in February, saying that these illegals went and sued. They said, habeas corpus, I'm being illegally detained. One guy, an illegal alien named Ignacio Sosnava Rodriguez, he was arrested during a traffic stop in 2025. He had lived in Texas for 22 years, filed the petition while he was still in custody with ICE. He said, my Fifth Amendment rights are being violated. You have to let me out. The court, though, said, no, we don't. Using the precedent of the 3-factor test from Matthews versus Elridge, the lower court said that his petition was valid. So even though he's being processed by immigration, he can leave immigration, go to a different court, and have a lower level judge let him go. And they did. But the Court of Appeals just said, no, sorry, we're going to reverse that lower level judge as the appeal continues. Now, the decision, as we saw, was extraordinary. Similarly, the appeals court also stayed the petitions of 2 others, another illegal called Alejandro Angel and Miguel Angel Gomez, both presumably going back into custody. And so the decision was very short. You can see it was just basically a ruling. We had a couple of cases bundled together here out of the Fifth Circuit: Ignacio Rodriguez, Alejandro Angel, and others, and Alvarado from Miguel. All 3 of these cases coming out of the Western District of Texas. They said, all right, it is ordered that the appellant's opposed motion to expedite the ruling on the motion for a stay, okay, so to block the lower level judge who let these dudes out, is granted. And it's also further ordered that the motion for a stay of these other judgments pending the rehearing en banc is also granted. Let's go. So victories across the board. That's the fullness of the decision that got handed down. We'll proceed forward on the merits and we'll have more litigation on this. But as it stands, while this is pending, the precedent has been set. You can detain them and presumably they'll be getting picked back up. Now, elsewhere in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott issued a new executive order. We've got it queued up right here. We'll see what is inside, but he's saying individuals are traveling now to the United States of America and illegally giving birth to secure citizenship for their children. That's called fraud. I issued an executive order directing state agencies to investigate these birth tourism schemes and hold every provider that facilitates them accountable. Why? Because U.S. citizenship is not for sale. And so just days ago, he issued a new one. He said, quote, Texas will not tolerate the exploitation of our laws by people traveling here under false pretenses. This order directs state agencies to investigate birth tourism schemes and hold accountable any provider that does this. Texas will put a stop to this and issued a big long order. We'll take a look at what is inside right here. As you see, he posted this July 21, filed with the Texas Secretary of State, saying, pursuant to my powers as governor, I'm issuing the following executive order, GA 57. This relates to coordinated efforts to eliminate unlawful birth tourism schemes across Texas. He says, for 4 years, the Biden-Harris administration adopted open border policies that invited mass illegal entry into the United States. They ignored laws that required the federal government to secure the border. They did not construct infrastructure barriers. They did not detain illegal aliens or would-be entrants. And they did not swiftly remove these people pressing frivolous asylum claims. And so this surge has resulted in roughly 12 million people, a number larger than the population of 43 different states, coming in here illegally in less than 4 years, probably way more than that. And so this unprecedented entry forced the state to shoulder numerous costs, including costs associated with law enforcement, defense measures, medical care, public education, other public resources, and many more things. And this entry also, in addition to the costs, brought in violent gangbangers and terrorists. And the surge also was military-aged males from hostile nations that are accelerating in a strategic penetration, a literal soft invasion designed to gain internal access to the United States. This is to inflict catastrophic damage to our nation. And so I, Greg Abbott of Texas, launched Operation Lone Star to defend the people of Texas against the hostile invasion by employing strategies to deter these efforts to violate our territorial sovereignty. In fact, in 21, I issued a disaster proclamation under Texas law that the surge of people coming across and under the bridge was a threat of disaster. And entities doing business in Texas, including hospitals, are now trying to seek to profit from these ongoing effects of this disaster by incentivizing birth tourism, which is the practice of non-citizen aliens exploiting our law to come in here to give birth under false pretenses to get citizenship for their kids. And so now, a narrow majority of the Supreme Court recently held that the Constitution, this still pains me to even think about, entitles children of illegal aliens and even temporary birth tourists, okay, people who don't reside here, people who have zero allegiance here, temporary sojourners coming across, all get citizenship in the biggest backstab, perhaps, of our life, Trump versus Barbara out of the Supreme Court in a move to slowly destroy the nation. Now, that decision, though, is not only inconsistent with centuries of practice excluding the children of non-citizen aliens who are temporarily present or who owe loyalty to another nation, but also it could bestow citizenship on the child of a foreign spy or a strategic enemy, citing the dissents. And so the same day that the Supreme Court issued this decision, the DOJ said all U.S. attorneys and the criminal division should investigate and prosecute birth tourism schemes. The DOJ wrote a memo that details exactly what happens here. And if anyone lies about coming in, if they commit visa fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, or more, we're going after them. Similarly, the Texas AG has also taken steps to combat this, including suing a Houston area facility that claims to have facilitated birth tourism for 1,000+ foreign nationals, a company that now coaches customers to mislead or to deceive federal immigration officials about why they're coming here. And also on July 7th, we covered this. Texas Governor Greg Abbott directed the HHSC, Health and Human Services, to launch immediate investigations into reports that hospitals were giving literal birth tourism packages to be here. We did that. We found one hospital that was advertising $39.50 to bring in a baby. We'll give you a discount, and directing them to their website in order to do so. We say that no person is authorized now to conduct birth without a license and provide care for these things. We can also provide rules about Medicare and spending. And so if you're doing this, we can just defund you. We also administer vital statistics and more and issue birth certificates. The OIG is also tasked with preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. We also, in Texas, the medical board regulates medicine. The nursing board regulates nursing. Licensing and regulation hands out licensing for you, including midwifery and more. And so with all of that being said, now, as the governor, and by virtue of the power and authority vested in me by the Constitution of the United States and the great state of Texas, I do hereby direct the following. We want DHS, HHSC, OIG, TMB, BON, TDLR, not TLDR, to investigate claims of birth tourism schemes in the Texas healthcare industry and take action against licensed and regulated individuals and entities, advertising, soliciting, engaging in, assisting with, providing, or otherwise participating in these activities, including by revoking and suspending their licenses, prohibiting the participation in state contracts, denying state benefits, and taking other enforcement action as appropriate. We also want you under the Constitution to partner with federal prosecutors to identify and combat birth tourism schemes in Texas, including by sharing this information with federal prosecutors so the feds can come in and prosecute this separately. This executive order supersedes everything else and will remain in effect, signed by the governor, Greg Abbott, July 21, 2026, and now in effect. And so a very nice development. And if this is what the Supreme Court wanted, well, they got it. And so we can start to address the effects. One way to prevent non-citizens from exploiting birthright status is to deport them en masse, get them out. That solves a lot of problems downstream of the deportations, including reducing budget expenditures for housing, SNAP benefits, education, healthcare, freeing up the markets so that Americans can get back into the workforce, and reducing the supply and demand problem that is increasing costs for everybody across the nation, and they can go back home to their great countries. But one Republican who is essentially the right's version of Ilhan Omar, literally, if you put her in a hijab, it'd be essentially the same thing, is Maria Salazar. And she is saying explicitly, there are millions and millions of undocumented people who belong to my Hispanic community. What? Your Hispanic community? Are you the leader of the illegals? Here's Ilhan Salazar explaining.
We're talking about those millions and millions of illegals, undocumented people who belong to my community. Probably 80% of the undocumented belong to the Hispanics, the largest and fastest growing minority in the country. So why don't we give them dignity? Let them stay, those who do not have a criminal record. Let them continue contributing to the #1 economy in the world so we can continue being the #1 military in the world. If we don't have the economy, we don't have the guns, and we cannot defend ourselves. We're talking.
If we don't have the economy, we don't have the guns, and so we cannot defend ourselves. So we need millions and millions of undocumented Hispanics, according to her, in her community, in order to defend ourselves. So like this is a national security problem. What is she talking about? Is she a citizen or not? Her Hispanic community, millions of undocumented people in her community. So does she identify as an undocumented person? So as I mentioned, she is Ilhan Salazar. It's just, the same arguments, just a different ethnicity, and more interested in a foreign nation and a foreign population than her own people, just like Ilhan cares more about Somalia. So wild to see that from a Republican. Dignity has been provided, okay? They've got temporary status, that's expired. Many came in illegally. Law needs to be enforced. How about our dignity and the laws of America being dignified? From a Republican. And for some reason, she's allowed to caucus with Mike Johnson and the other Republicans, many of whom agree with her. So here's one person who doesn't. It's Tom Homan. He showed up on with Katie Miller, and she asked him a question. Well, what about the people that Ilhan Salazar wants to stay here?
Do you believe that someone who's been here, say, for 30 years, who is a productive member of society, we're saying somebody's nanny, or a housekeeper, or someone who's participating in, society in a different way, contributing member, that they should still be eligible for deportation if they're here illegally?
Yes. If you're here illegally, you need to go home.
Simple.
Do you?
Because the message we send, Katie, is that if you enter the country illegally, it's a crime, but don't worry about it. You can get order removed by a judge and not leave. Don't worry about it. If you don't commit yet another crime beyond illegal entry, you're good to go. 100%. If that's the message we want to send the whole world, we're never going to fix this problem.
100% right. And, we could have had a reasonable conversation about this at some point. We did that back under Reagan. He's like, sure, we'll give them all amnesty and that'll fix the problem. And then it didn't fix the problem. And if we didn't have, according to Texas, 12 million people in, according to Greg Bovino, with everybody who's come in and their kids and the chain migration, 100 million people, then you could have had a conversation about it as long as, America balanced the budget and had established world peace and we took care of all of our vets and everybody's educational systems were great and nobody was starving on the streets or suffering from food shortages or whatever. If the whole nation was perfectly appropriate, then we said, well, okay, we'll let some people come in and we'll have a reasonable immigration system. But they wrecked it. They took advantage of the last 4 years, and so they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore. And unfortunately, if you start making these exceptions and start saying, well, these can stay and these can't stay, then the line always moves. Everybody's always got a sob story, and they will just come back and say, but this person really deserves it. We're already seeing that with the Haitians. TPS status is canceled. Supreme Court says confirmed. All of a sudden, everybody pops out of the woodwork, but not my Haitians, okay? Not my TPSers. The law either means something or it doesn't. We either live in a nation that actually has laws or we live in just anarchy where special interests are in charge and the integrity of the country is hollowed out at everybody's beck and whim. And so that can't happen anymore. So we like that Tom Homan energy, baby. Keep that coming. Hopefully much more on that. And you got to set a hard line. It's got to be everybody, knowing that it's not going to be everybody, but that's where the line has to be established. And you get as close as that to that as you can. You can't set the line in the middle and say, well, only a couple people. We'll leave the agriculture's people in here, or we'll give amnesty to this group and not to this group, because the line will then just move all the way, right? It's like your parents saying you got to go to bed at 10. Okay, 10:15. Okay, 10:30. Okay, 10:45. Okay, 11. Then you're up till 2 a.m. playing video games, eating Cheetos and candy and wrecking your teeth. Just like this invasion is wrecking America's teeth. So we're going to keep our eye on this. We've got big victories that are starting to rack up. We saw other nice Court of Appeals wins on the habeas petitions that have been exploited for almost 2 years now, coming back down in wins. We've also got Texas now taking some action at the state level, and Tom Homan is at least saying the right things. We'll see if that can get implemented when Mark Wayne Mullen is over there, not following his orders. But we'll, of course, keep our eye on all of this deportation news and litigation. Thanks for joining and subscribing as we do. All right, friends, what a lovely stream it has been. Thank you for joining us on the day. If you're just getting here, we had some fun updates today. First of all, a whole slew of election fraud probes are now underway. We've got the DOJ probing into Mikey Sherrill. We also have a special prosecutor request that has been made by Congress over to Todd Blanche so we can get an independent inquiry on this. We've also got, in the state level, a request to form a special committee in the state legislature so that they can identify all of the various problems that are internal. We saw they also are demanding now from the Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey a total federal audit of all the Idemia contracts across the entire state, and a lot of reaction to this. Even Democrats now are having a hard time answering this, and we've got more to follow up with on that one. Then we saw Democrat lawyers, or I would say panicking, now threatening Brad Raffensperger, a friendly, one of their election believers. They call everyone election deniers, but an election believer. Well, he agrees with us. Now he found, according to his own list, 100,000 potentially ineligible voters. So Mark says you can't do anything about those people. You have to keep your list filled with crap. And we want an extra 100,000 ballots to go out the next time we need them. So he sent a letter, and it's not just the democracy dorks. It is a whole slew of other leftist lawyers for the DSCC, 3 of them, in fact, saying don't change anything. The way it is currently rigged, we like it. Mark was out explaining why this is Trump interfering with elections, as he's literally threatening Brad for cleaning his list up. And then we saw that this new tool called Ellie is pretty cool, and it has them very nervous. Mark Elias also screeching about this from his law firm. And the tool seems to be pretty good and free and accessible and not something implicated by Georgia law. And then lastly, We had a win out of the Fifth Circuit there in Texas. We've got some illegal aliens who are not going to be able to use habeas to get out of custody during their immigration proceedings. We also had a new executive order by Greg Abbott, who is now saying, we're taking your licenses, your nursing licenses, your doctor's licenses, if you facilitate birth tourism, and we're going to defund your booties as well. Ilhan Salazar is out on behalf of her people. And then we've got Tom Homan, who says everyone has to go. The law is the law in America, no exceptions. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. Happy Wednesday. It is all downhill from here. And we're excited for what the rest of the week has in store. What a beautiful day it is. Hey, John, Muffin Rando, Donut Mind Me. Thank you for clipping for us today. And shout out to our amazing mods and friends. Thank you for sending these donations in. We got some new members coming in as well. What a beautiful day. We had a great members only stream this morning. We talked about the fun clips of Brandon Gill, who was duking it out with the Smithsonian. And then we had some other fun clips of Wesley Clark. Hilarious. He's like, if I had a drinking game, every time they said the word racist, I had to take a drink, I'd be dead. Which is true. Talking about the Democrats, because that's what they do. So this morning, we also had an update. Oh, California. So the Californians are rigging their elections again. They literally changed the ballot measure from one language to another language. Okay, 1.3 million Californians signed off on to put a ballot measure to amend the California Constitution to add in voter ID and citizenship check. Okay, got on the ballot. Then the scumbag Rob Bonta then inverted the language, changed it to make it sound really bad, violating the representative rights of these 1.3 million people who signed on to it. And we talked about all of that. So we had a great members only stream this morning. We're going to have another great members only stream tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube or on Locals. And we hope to see you there. Now let's see who's joining us today. What a beautiful day. Hey, what's going on? It's Trump in the house saying nope, 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 nope. Hey, welcome to the team. Who are these dudes? Welcome aboard to the team. Hey, Sev Russ, man. Good to see you, Sev Russ, the 55-mile man in the house. Bringing in 5 new members. Thank you, Sev, for doing this. We got Murphy's here. We got DJ CMSU joining us. Father Slurps, Chuck Carter, M3D1K, all gifted memberships, courtesy of Sev Russ. And we'll see everybody in the morning on our next members only morning stream. Hey, Sean of Time, I think is how I say it. Not Fime, as I normally say. Thank you for bringing in 5 new friends. Look who's here. It's 011-11-0000-11-0010. Welcome. Mina Bird, what's up? This is Michelle Torres. Great to see you, Michelle. Glad you are going to be joining us. Hey, Christopher Anderson in the house. And Glambert, all gifted memberships, courtesy of Sean of Time in the house. Pretty sure I nailed that. Thank you, Sean, for doing that. We'll see everybody in the morning. And more here. Look at this. 20 more here coming in. What a beautiful day it is. Excited to see everybody tomorrow. What's up? Hey, Matt Sullivan, what's up? Just another day. We got Kinda Shady. Amy Harrell, what's up, Amy? I think I follow you on X. Good to see you here. X Hellas X, what's up? Teresa's Crazy Life. We got Mary's Babushka, welcome. Lowell Rich. We got Red Paladin. What's up, Corrito? Christian K. Legal Thoughts Sidebar. Nice. Soldier Light. What's up, Daniel James Bindery? We got Mons Wage. Doltz is here. Diana Woodrow, C. Snow, Dr. Cast, and Joe Dunn. All gifted memberships courtesy of More Here, bringing in 20 more here. Thank you for doing that, More Here. Excited to see everybody in the morning. Grab the members only stream from this morning, and it's going to be lovely. Hey, LKD, what's up? 503. Hey, Rob, thank you for all you do. Thank you, LKD. I have watched you for many years. Man, thank you for that. That is a real awesome thing. I really appreciate that. I sent a tip after the baby shower, I hope you got it, about the David Martin thing. He has timeline documents showing all parties involved and the plan that started as far back as 2016. Is David Martin the guy you mentioned this morning? I think that is that the guy you were asking about the doctor? Like, why is everybody ignoring this guy? And I said, I've never even heard of him. So you sent me something. Do you remember where you sent that? Was it on X? Have a great day and blessings and prayers for you, your wife, and the little one to come. Man, thank you for that, LKD. So I appreciate that. David Martin, I'll look into that. Yeah, you sent the video this morning. I just never heard of the guy. So he was ahead of the curve on this, going all the way back to 2016. Yeah, and there's hints, man. Rand released more documents today on the COVID stuff, and he was saying that, I mean, even in 19, they were talking about this. And then there were other text messages that came out that were asking about why this didn't get released in like Raleigh, North Carolina or something. Strange stuff out there. So thank you, LKD. And thanks for watching us for so long. That really means a lot. We've been through a lot together, and I'm honored to be spending this time with you. Severus, hey, what's up? Talking about the computer programming. I have done software programming. This would have to be either hard-coded in the software or manipulated by the user. Either way, it's deliberate. Right, exactly right. Yeah, it's a glitch. What does that mean? Like it's a bug? Does the bug have any like traceability back to the bug? Was it solved? Did they fix it? Is this bug also, if it's a bug in your software, they're also contracted with all these other states, do they have the same problem? So are you basically saying it's their fault, not yours, which would open the can of worms for them and then expose the system to the entire nation? Or was it your problem and thus instigates an investigation into you and your people? We got to get to the bottom of it. And were you not updating your software? Maybe that's the problem. But then that's a you problem, not a company problem. And the company's now apparently going to get reamed with a federal audit. So if they do, I would imagine that's going to cause serious business damage to them, and they may want to sue Mickey Sherrill for this. Thank you for the dono, Severus. Shout out to our computer programmers out there. Stephen Montplaisir in the House. You know, the most important aspect of the state legislature asking for tools to look at time, place, and manner of elections, they have plenary powers to do it. Yeah, and I don't know about the makeup of the New Jersey legislature. I would imagine it's pretty leftist. So, you know, did they send that to a leftist Speaker of the House? In other words, they're not going to formulate anything on this because what do they care? They're beneficiaries of the fraud. So they would just move on and move past it. But I think you're right. Like, they have a lot of power to investigate a lot of things. And I appreciate them escalating this and elevating it into a much broader conversation. And it's a great idea, too. I think Congress should also form an election commission. Especially if there's one other state. Okay, if we find one other state that has a similar problem like this, then we should say, oh, it's a national problem. Congress needs to form a new select committee. And boom, congressional subpoena powers, just boom, 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 boom. And get to the bottom of it. Let's solve it once and for all, shall we? So I like it, Stephen. Thank you for that. We also saw Just John Doe in the House. How many illegals have New Jersey driver's licenses? I would imagine a lot. Yeah, some states just hand them out. New Jersey governor said they found 6,600 who said no on citizenship. How many said yes? Great question. Yeah, now the DOJ has grounds to see how many have driver's licenses and how many are registered to vote. Well, and it's exactly right. That's what Harmeet is asking for. So she sent the letter out at the top of the show. We read it. She wants data on all of those 6,600. Where'd they come from? What are their names? What are their countries of origins? When did they register? Give us the details, and the people who did vote, we want even more information about them. What did their signatures look like? And she only gave us a very limited window. So if it goes back to 2023 in June, what happened in June 2023? Was there a Windows update on something? Or did somebody go in and make a setting? Who was in charge? Who was touching the system back then? But, you know, like people log in with different passwords. And so, like, how do you backtrace it to the origin point to get down to the root cause? But that's the point, is we don't know. And in order to figure that out, we need a full-blown enema exam. You know, like, got to get into the bowels of this thing. Pretty gross visual, but it's true. We got to get in there and really just open that puppy up and see what kind of crap's inside, you know? Thank you, Just John. All right, I'll leave that one alone. Michelle Parsons. Rob, can you look up a free speech case in Minnesota? It's called Mr. Conwell. He's a street preacher. sued Benson in Michigan because they tried to charge him a fee for preaching on a public parking lot, has been cited and fined. Yeah, we can take a look at that. Mr. Conwell, it's in Minnesota, but Benson, I think, is in Michigan, right? So do we have our lines crossed on that? Conwell Street preacher. We'll cue this one up for maybe tomorrow morning. Is that Minnesota? Minnesota City sued, oh, it's Minnesota, for demanding a Christian preacher pay a vendor fee to hold a pro-life sign. Amazing. So that's a lawsuit. Great. That's great. Yeah, we may come back on that. I've got it queued up. Well, he's a Christian preacher. Maybe if he was Islamic or something, then they would like that there in Little Somalia. So thank you for that, Michelle Parsons. Great suggestion. I appreciate the tag on that. We'll take a look. We'll see if we can grab the lawsuit and run through it. But it's a Minnesota city, so it might be, I don't know if it's a federal, it is a federal civil rights lawsuit. Okay, I'll be able to find it probably. So that'll be cool. Thank you, Michelle, for the flag. We always love good referrals. That's a good one. Good story tags. Thank you for that. Dark Rogue. Hey, sent you a link in X to the judgment of the Sabatini case. Thank you, Dark Rogue. Amazing. So another good one. We read that one, a little bit about that this morning. Not a lot of details, but there's this prosecutor who was like investigating a bunch of businesses, seemingly for no reason at all. Then the Fraternal Order of the Police went after the prosecutor, said they have a vote of no confidence in this guy, and that he should be removed, essentially. And I was asking Dark Rogue, who brought this up yesterday, why was he going after these businesses? And Dark Rogue said it was all just random. He was just like targeting these Yelp businesses. Prosecutors are crazy. Doesn't even sound like he was sleeping with them, like the other lady from yesterday. Thank you, Dark Rogue. Good to see you. Thank you for the PDF. We love some good PDFs here, too. Actual PDF files, right? So just John Doe, what's up? Hey, Grok says 500,000 illegals in New Jersey, and the MVC does not break down the DL stats by citizenship status. So many do not even declare their status when obtaining a driver's license. Wow, that's incredible. So we have no clue how many illegals got New Jersey driver's licenses and are also registered to vote. That's crazy. That makes sense. So that fills in the gap. Yesterday we were saying, and this morning and today, that it's a limited hangout. Okay, it's 6,600. That's it. Don't look into it. So essentially, she gave us like two categories of people who came through the system. People who said, I'm not a citizen. People who said, I am a citizen. Okay, it's like a binary choice, yes or no. But what about the people who didn't say either way? Is there an option to just say that there is no response to that? Like, I decline to answer that. I don't check the box. So we can't validate you against the choice. Just a bunch of other people who go through. We're not even going to check. What do you want, a driver's license? Sure. I'd like a driver's license. Maybe I don't want to actually, register to vote at this time. I just like a driver's license ID. And I'm going to leave that part out. And were they added into the total list? You can't, it's not a separate bucket that you could like scrape out. Like think about it like a big spreadsheet, right? Then you filter by, column, illegal alien, filter. So all the illegals pop up, highlight all the rows, look at the count. Oh, it's 6,600. But what about the others who have that category as undefined? They don't show up in that filter. Yeah. So I honestly, like if you just had to ballpark it and shoot from the hip, just John Doe, I think it would be a lot closer to Homeland's number than anything that the state was reporting, which would mean 35,000 seems more reasonable than, and even that's pretty low, like 35,000 out of 500,000. That's much more reasonable than 6,600 out of 500,000, if those numbers are right. So, it's high. We've looked into it. We're not going to look into it any further. I think they goofed on that. They should have just buried it, but they may know that it's not going to go anywhere because a lot of these probes, will be kind of toothless in New Jersey. Like if it's a Democrat House, that's not going to happen. Todd Blanche, is he going to appoint a special prosecutor? Unlikely. Harmeet is probably the best option there. A federal audit should happen, but will that happen? So maybe that's what they're hoping for. Like it's a limited hangout. Everything else will stall out and nobody will look harder. But I got to say, I think the response, like we were predicting a response, obviously, but this was big. We got like 4 attack vectors now going in and trying to root this thing out. So it's good. Object Class Keter, what's happening? Ask her why we need more gun laws then. Are you talking about Ilhan Salazar? It's already illegal to murder, and we have background checks for purchases. And they also want more checks. Oh, you might be talking about Pocahontas. Yeah. Well, you want to fix the system so that people who are breaking the law can't break the law, right? When it comes to illegal voting, okay, it's, first of all, they're not being prosecuted. So of those 400 people, I would guess, if I had to guess, 0 get prosecuted for that. Should be all 400 of them, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. Oops, I made a mistake. I didn't know I was going 100 miles an hour. Doesn't matter. You're still getting a ticket. So the fact that they did the thing is evidence of a crime alone, but are they going to get prosecuted from Pocahontas? No. She should send a letter over to the state prosecutor and say they should be prosecuted immediately, or support at the federal level, send a letter to Todd Blanche. But the point is, they shouldn't have even been on the list. Like, they should have never gotten a ballot. And this is one of those crimes that you can prevent by just tightening up the system to make the crime more impossible, right? Like, it's a crime to rob a bank and to steal money out of the vault, but you still lock the vault. You don't just leave it wide open and say, well, you're going to go to jail if you take $1 out of here. You lock it, just like we should do with our elections. Oh, there's a bicycle right there. Hey, it's Swap Part in the house. Swap Part LLC. What a lovely image that is. Shout out to our bicyclists. Hey, thank you, Swap Part, for being a member, bringing in 10 new friends. We'll see everybody in the morning. Liberty Bell Lyric, what's up? E. Taylor, great to see you. Broken Prophet. Georgia Mini, we got Gaslighting the Masses is here. Tony Neves, what's up? Lee in the house. Heather Salvatore, what's up? Catpool. And Gina Buell, gifted memberships courtesy of Swap Part. Swapping those parts and keeping things running. Good to see you. Thank you for those. Hey, T-Rock, what's up? Hey, my last name is Jones. LOL. What's up? 28 months as a member, man. Thank you for that, T-Rock. That's a long time. That's multiple babies. What did I say? Did I make a crack about somebody named Jones? It's a nice, strong name. Yeah. And, it's not Van Jones, right? You're not the Van Jones in the chat. All right, good to see you, T-Rock. Thank you. Hey, E. Texley, what's up? Some of my ancestors came into the colonies in the 1600s. That's amazing, man. That is so cool, that lineage. That is so cool. I have had to fill out I-9s. One employer required that I show my Texas birth certificate to complete my I-9 submission. Wow. And are you not even a Hispanic person like Gil Cisneros was? So you don't have the privilege that he was presuming that you have, is what I'm taking from this comment. Thank you, E. Texley. Shout out to your ancestors. Super cool. You guys built the country. King of Biltong, what's up? Tired of the same old snacks? You might be. Instead of that garbage, upgrade to high protein Biltong from Biltong USA. It's got clean ingredients, great flavored grass-fed air-dried beef. Go to biltongusa.com and use code Robert and you'll save 10% off on all of your meats. Thank you, King of Biltong. Hopefully it's flying off the shelves. We got Schlista. When Senator Pocahontas said we already have laws on the books to address that, the reporter should have followed up with, oh, so we don't need new gun laws either there, right? Yeah, another good idea. So if it's already addressed, there's no further work to be done. In fact, why is she a senator? There's already books there, laws on the books. She should just resign her office and go back to her teepee. So thank you, Schlista. Salty Maynor, what's going on? Hey, 26 months, Salty Maynor. Thank you for being here for so long. That's incredible. We appreciate your membership and your friendships and more. Chris Kinsey, hey, keep up the great work. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being a member. Thanks for the donation. Thanks for the thumbs up, my man. We appreciate you being here and watching the show with us. It's a privilege. Hey, and Gooner Damus in the house. Oh, gosh. Gooner Damus. Arlene, welcome. Hey, thanks for being a member, Gooner Davis in the house. What's up? Arlene is here. What's up? Good to see you. Just thinking about your name. Robert, what's up? Chris D, great to have you. Michelle Balti and Jesse Darren all in the house. Gifted courtesy of the prognosticator of prognosticators, Gunnar Damus, in the house. Hey, Lilu Dallas, Multipass in the house. What's up, Lilu? Is there anything that can be done, in your opinion, about the lying and the bias of the mainstream media from a legal perspective? I mean, not as it relates to free speech. So like, obviously, you know, media, people in the media can have their opinions. I do think that there is stuff legally that you could do about the money and the funding. I think the more we see, you know, the Chinese influence operations and more, we could do a lot to cut off the money. So if they're lying, if they have biases, and that sort of bias is being funded by out of country cash, I would like to cut that off. I don't know exactly how to do that, whether it's, you know, a doubling down on FARA, whether it's more disclosures, whether it's, you know, more penalties for the commentators or the influencers or whomever is being biased by that cash. I think we should have a much stronger chain of custody, get the money out of a lot of this conversation. Think about like the COVID stuff. Okay, like all the pharmaceutical cash going into CNN. CNN turns around and says, take the jab. The science says so. Like that type of advertising, or whatever you want to call it, societal engineering, is problematic. So how do you address that? Don't know exactly. You know, you just kind of take out, maybe cut out certain advertisers. Just say, we're not allowing you to advertise on the public broadcast waves, right? Just, it's cut off. You want a license, you're not going to take this stuff that might be providing medical influence or something, right? Some way to cut it off. You got the First Amendment, which makes it tricky, but I think that's internal influence and bias. What do you do about the external influence and bias, wherever that money's coming from? All the nations, I think it should be at the very least identified and mandatory that you, if you want to, you know, take money to promote a cause, even some liability on the broadcaster for failing to disclose something in order to track it down, because I think it's perverting the truth. I think it's leading to lying. I think it's leading to bias. It's weaponizing everybody against themselves. Everybody's killing everybody out there over many of these issues. And is it even real? Is it authentic? Is it organic? Are these issues that are important to Americans, or is this all being influenced by some big, you know, cash cow somewhere else? So stuff like that, even disclosure rules, like we have disclosure rules, like you can't shill, you know, certain stocks and things without disclosing things. You can't, you know, like give legal advice without implicating some additional rules. So what do? I think that money and regulation of the money would be one place to start. But otherwise, you know, they can be biased, lying hacks if they want to. We have the First Amendment. So other than that, they're protected. Thank you for the question, Lilu, and for the nice donation. Hey, Washington Street Jags fan in the house. 1970. Hey, just because, and thank you. Thank you for that, Jags fan. Very nice of you to send that in. And looks like the Jaguars, right? NFL's not going on right now, is it? I don't think so. But hopefully your team crushes when they're back in business. Thank you for the nice donation. Hey, Dan Sundin, a couple sent in here. Same one twice. The terminal kiosk is done via firmware with prompts. What the follow-on application does with the return value would be software and programming. Yeah, I guess what the company was saying is that they sent it to the state. Okay, so company like accepts stuff and then sends it to the state. Then the state would actually make the decision and then categorize them appropriately. In other words, the company was not doing that decision tree on their end. They were giving it to the state to do the decision tree on their end. Yeah. Good to see you, Dan. Sharpening Man. Hey, sure appreciate your dedication, Rob. Thank you, Sharpening Man. We're glad you're here. Alexis and you are likely parents before I check back again. It's a boy. Love y'all watchers and all y'all. Be blessed, from Sharpening Man out there in Texas who sharpens knives into a fine blade. Thank you, Sharpening Man. Appreciate you being here. And whatever it is you're doing, until you're back. I hope it's amazing. Hey, Jonah Finn. Yeah, the New Jersey governor should have no problem giving the DOJ all they want. She wasn't even the governor then. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. If she really wants to come clean, then she would just cooperate. I didn't do anything. Don't get mad at me. Come take a look. I think the problem with that is that's a full hangout. She doesn't want to do that. She wants a limited hangout. She does that. I think they'll find way bigger problems than anybody could even anticipate. And she would then be blamed for vindicating Trump, right? She would be blamed for confirming all of his worst fears, and the entire hoax about the 2020 election that they ask every single nominee about would all come crashing down. So she can't do that. She can't be too compliant. She just needs to unleash a little bit so that people can say she did her part and move on. Hey, thank you for this. So this is the Conwell case. This is the one, the Christian preacher. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Brian Conwell. Okay, cool. So it just got filed today. No docs on recap yet. Thank you, Donut, for looking that up, man. Conwell versus City of Benson. Okay, so it's not Jocelyn Benson, it's the City of Benson. That's why I got my lines crossed. So, all right, cool. So that came from Michelle Parsons. So Michelle, once we get some docs on that, I think that would be a really good one to look at, because I'm sure he'll be suing and it'll be juicy inside. And it's the Somalians up there, so that'll be fun. And thank you, Donut, for looking it up. Hey, Benjamin Behringer, what's up? In Colorado, you only file for a license and you're auto-filled as a registered DEM. Nice change 6 times before it finally went through. They keep changing it back. Interesting, from Benjamin Behringer. Yeah, that they want to inflate the rolls. They're happy with very perverted lists because they would appreciate having extra ballots out there that they can go harvest. And they do. So Benjamin Behringer, great to see you. And somebody who knows a lot about this, we're going to talk to her on Monday, is Dr. Janice Johnston. You remember her from the Georgia State Election Board? She's joining us on Monday, 10 a.m. This Friday, we've got Jeffrey Clark, also a victim of the election weaponization, is joining us Friday at 10 a.m. And then Dr. Janice, we covered a lot of her work here. She's joining us on Monday at 10 a.m. to talk about all this stuff. And I talked to her today, and she was explaining some of that people would get removed from the list and then be added back. Or people's registration would be one way, and then it would get perverted. Like there's some sort of data transposition happening, if that's the word. Hey, Jim tells you, having a stream tonight. Jim, amazing. We'll send some people your way as soon as we're done here. And then Sandra, awesome. Sandra, thank you for becoming a supporter. We'll see you in the morning. We had a good stream this morning as well, talking about Brandon Gill, who's amazing, and talking about the California fraudsters who are just bona fide cheaters. Incredible. And then Dan, okay, New Jersey doesn't require proof of citizenship, only a promise by the individual regarding voter registration. Yeah, and that's pretty much across the board, at least at the federal level, right? So it's just a box. It's an attestation. Okay, I am a citizen, therefore I can vote. States at the state level can pass, like citizen checks and background checks into the voter. But at the federal level, it often doesn't translate up there. You just got to valid. So like, in other words, you can go into a state that has voter ID and proof of citizenship and just request a federal only ballot, not a state ballot, and you'll get a different ballot in a different form that goes through a different background and check process. Just because one at one level does it doesn't mean it does it across the board. So that makes sense. It's just an attestation, doesn't have to be perfect across the board. Horn, what's up? 99,845 in the house. Thank you for the donation, Horn. Wait for it. Wait for it. In the house. Good to see you. Thanks for being a member for 2 years plus. Amazing. And so we'll see you on the morning stream. Hey, Nathan Butler, Fighting the Fall. What's up, Fighting the Fall in the house? Band here in the house? No members stream after this. We used to do after parties. Now we just do the members only streams in the morning. If we can't get members streams in the morning, sometimes we've got baby stuff or other activities or whatever, then we do an after party. It's kind of one or the other. But so we'll see you tomorrow, Nathan, 10 a.m. Eastern time if you want to join us for the morning stream. Not a Fed, and thanks for being a member for 14 months, Nathan. You rock. Hopefully that music is jamming, my man. The government says Not a Fed was probably a benefactor of the glitch, hence the limited hangout. The glitch. I mean, a glitch could be someone turns a check, someone swaps a drop down, someone checks a box, and they all just get automated through. Or everyone that comes through that requires a human eye to verify and validate, they just approve. Hence the limited hangout. She does not yet want to be unburdened by what has been. Wow, that's profound. Don't want to be unburdened by what has been. Wow, it's deep, it's poetic. It's so reflective that I want to just start cackling and then lose a presidential election. Oh! So thank you for that, Not a Fed. That's a Kamala quote, in case you were wondering where that was going. So good stuff. All right, so friends, thank you so much for those donations and for being here. It was a fun stream and a fun day. We had some good updates today. Of course, we're going to have even more and even better updates tomorrow. And we got a couple of comments over on Locals. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, oh, that's funny. Okay, so Dan, so far in major races in Maricopa County, the turnout is greater for Democrats than Republicans. That's not good. From Dan. Thank you for the black pill as we wrap it up. Hey, what's going on? From Sassy Gemini. Saying, I watched the restream from this morning and the song. So somebody was mentioning some songs this morning. I don't even want to sing them because it'll be stuck in your head. It's not from Mary Poppins. It goes back to 1910. Skidamarinky dinky dink. Goes back to 1910. Began as a Broadway song from The Echo. The original tune was built around a playful nonsense phrase that basically meant I love you, and over the years made its way from stage into children's music, camp songs, and sing-alongs and more. There's more to the little ditty, but I just wanted to share the basic first lines. Funny how a song that started as a novelty can end up living rent-free in our heads decades later. I knew it. I think John said it, right? It was like, skidamarinky dinky dink, skidamarinky doo. I love you. Something like that. So there's a whole thing to it. And then somebody else said chitty chitty bang bang. And then we sang that song too. It was a wild morning today. Hey, thank you for that, Sassy Gemini. Good history lesson. It is pretty amazing how those things can. What's so interesting about stuff like that, they're like these, like icons. They're these things like, can't think of the word, but they just live over time. And they just pass from generation to generation. Even, nobody really knows why. Like a meme, like a mimetic transference. Dan, federal law as of 1996, no aliens are allowed to vote in federal elections. States are not following federal election law, and they should be indicted. Hey, what's up? Hey, Barry, not to blow your head up with pride, but I watched this morning and evening, and you give the breaking news of the day. We try, man. We like it fresh out of the oven here, I've been a supporter since second quarter 22, and you've not failed to rule the truth and the facts. Funny, watch all the news, spin it, LOL. Thanks for keeping the faith and being strong. Barry, you're amazing, man. Thank you for that. Thanks for being here for so long. That's 4 years, man. We've been through a lot together. So it's really great to have you. Barry, thanks for the dono and for the comment. Hey, Boopsy, what's up, Boopsy? It's great to see you. Boopsy predicting 7/27. All right, so we got 5 days left. Whoo! We're ready. We're ready. Thank you, Boopsy. Yeah, I think Alexis is ready, so she'll be happy with that for sure. Thank you for that, Boopsy. You're amazing. And Rick D, you can't make this up. This Democrat arguing in the House against making nonprofits being required to disclose foreign donations because it would be too hard for labor unions. Why are foreign entities donating to American labor unions? Who used the members' dues to influence our elections? 100% right. Yeah, we want to know where all this cash is coming from. Because it's influencing and propagandizing our people. The podcast was choppy. My apologies for that. Yeah, hopefully it's been better. Sorry for that, Barry. Rick D, First Lady Melania has filed for sanctions against Michael Wolff. Ooh, that'll be a good one. I think I saw an update on that docket, but I didn't click it. Interesting. Thank you, Rick D. That sounds like a good one, too. Very cool. Hey, Joe, shout out to our Arizonans, man. Joe's Style in the house. We love our Arizonans. Miss you guys. Arizona's a beautiful place. Hey, and Dan, thank you for that. Yeah, federal law, states are not following federal law, so even federal only is invalid. Well, yeah, I mean, if you lie about your immigration status, like if you fill out the federal only form and you don't say that you say you're a citizen and you're not, that's a federal violation. My only point on that comment, Dan, was that it's just an attestation. Like they're not checking at the federal level. And I think Scalia had a decision about that. It's like he's like, the law doesn't say you can do it, so you can't do it. It's just an attestation. You can't disqualify anybody on that basis. Hey, Neuro D, man, thank you for sharing our actual locals community link over on X. Neuro D in the house. We got watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to join up on locals or join up on YouTube, and we'll see you tomorrow on the members only morning stream. And yeah, Lionheart. Okay, so much for a fast and speedy trial for Brian Cole Jr. Did they add charges today? I know he had a hearing on this. An act of terrorism while armed and attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction. Did they hit him with new charges? Wild. For Brian Cole Jr.? Pfft. All right. I know he had a hearing. I think it was today. Was it today or tomorrow? I thought they already did that. I thought that he got indicted, then there was a superseding indictment. Was there another one? Thank you for that, Lionheart. Have to take a look at that one. Maybe we'll follow up on that in the morning. But yeah, a lot of questions about that case for sure. So, all right, friends, it's been a beautiful day and really glad that you joined us. Thank you for liking the video on the way out. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't already done that, because we never want to miss you again. Dan, only 7 states now require proof of citizenship. In 24, there were only 4. What about all those old voter registrations based upon a promise from Dan? That's why we got to check the list, man. Check the list, check them twice, find out who's been naughty and who needs to be referred to ICE. That's my poem. All right, so it's been an amazing stream. Thank you, friends. Big thank yous to our incredible and amazing mods. We got Donut Mind Me. We got John in the house. We got Muffin Rando. We got K Bean. We got Carrie B. We have Neuro D. We got Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, Just Rhonda, all in the house, keeping things nice and orderly. Muffin Rando, thank you, my man. And friends, I hope the rest of your evening is outstanding and beautiful, that you get a very peaceful and pleasant rest, and you awaken tomorrow bursting full of energy, ready to tackle the day, and you return here to join us again, because it's going to be a busy one. And in order to do it all appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful evening. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news.